Have you ever stopped to think, maybe the news headlines about the Arab world, they're just scratching the surface.
Mm-hmm.
What if there's this whole deeper story, centuries of history maybe, that gets missed? Especially the perspectives from within the region itself.
That's a really important question. So much gets filtered out.
Exactly. And today, we're going to try and dig into that less told narrative.
Yeah.
We're using Eugene Rogan's incredible book, The Arabs, A History, as our guide.
It's a fantastic resource. Really comprehensive.
It really is. And it's not just, another history book. It takes you on this journey across 5 centuries, starts with the Ottoman conquest way back in the 1500s, and brings us right up to, well, basically now.
Yeah, the scope is immense.
So our goal here for you listening is to kind of give you a shortcut, a way to get properly informed about let's say, the complex currents and the identities that have really shaped this part of the world. We're pulling out the key stuff from Rogan's work, which, crucially, really tries to elevate Arab voices. And just so you know, you are experiencing a unique 2-voice AI conversation. This is powered by Google's NotebookLM, which we're using for, hopefully, a deeper and more dynamic analysis of the book.
Different way to explore it.
Right. So thinking about all the different stories out there about the Middle East, what is it about Rogan's book specifically that makes it stand out? How does it tackle such a huge, complex history?
Oh, I think what really sets it apart, fundamentally, is Rogan's commitment to, as he puts it, privileging Arab voices.
Okay.
And that's not just a nice phrase, it's baked into his method. He digs deep into an incredible range of Arab sources. You're talking politicians, intellectuals, but also ordinary people's accounts, poets, novelists of figures you've heard of and many you probably haven't.
So it's getting beyond just the official state narratives.
Exactly. It provides this really nuanced perspective on why things happen, what people were hoping for, how they saw themselves, things that often get flattened or just ignored in Western-centric accounts. It really pushes back against this idea of Arabs just being sort of passive recipients of history.
Right, showing agency rather than just reaction.
Precisely. Agency, ambition, internal debates, all of that. And he can do this because the book's reach is just vast. Geographically, it stretches from North Africa all the way over to the Arabian Peninsula.
Wow.
And topic-wise, everything. Big themes like empire, revolution, war, but also social changes, the impact of oil.
Yeah.
It weaves it all together.
That really paints a picture. It sounds incredibly comprehensive.
It is. It avoids those narrow snapshots you sometimes get.
Okay, so shifting perspective is key. Now, one thing that really jumps out from the book, apparently, is how deeply external powers have influenced the Arab world over centuries. How does Rogan lay that out?
Ah, yes. That's a huge recurring theme. You could almost say it's the backbone of the narrative for long stretches, this constant reality of foreign rule, of subjugation.
Right.
Rogan charts this sequence, this succession of non-Arab powers controlling Arab lands. First, you have the Ottomans for centuries.
Okay.
Then, as their power fades, you get the era of European imperialism, Britain, France, Italy.
The colonial period.
Exactly. And then moving into more recent times, the Cold War, where the U.S. and Soviet Union exerted immense influence. And then post-Cold War, what some would term American hegemony, significant U.S. dominance in the region's affairs.
So it's layer upon layer of external control or influence.
Pretty much, yeah. And the book argues this wasn't just a political overlay. It seeped much deeper. It profoundly shaped Arab identity, political thinking, social structures.
How so?
Well, it often became the primary thing people were reacting against. It directly fueled independence movements, sparked calls for reform, drove ideologies. It was this constant pressure that forced internal responses and shaped aspirations.
That makes sense. So if you have this centuries-long external pressure cooker and then movements pushing for independence, how did that actually change the idea of what Arab even means? How did identity itself evolve?
That's a fascinating question, and Rogan tracks this evolution really carefully. He shows it wasn't static. Initially, under the Ottomans, you had this phase he calls Ottomanism.
Ottomanism.
Yeah, where Arabs were, subjects of this large multi-ethnic empire. Their identity was partly tied to that larger imperial framework, alongside being Arab, Muslim, or from a specific city or region.
Okay, so more of a blended identity.
In a way, yes.
Sure.
But then particularly as the Ottoman Empire weakened and you get into the late 19th and early 20th century, and especially with the carve-up after World War I, you see the rise of Arabism, a powerful surge of Arab nationalism.
Right, the focus shifts inwards
Yeah.
towards a shared Arab identity.
Exactly. This idea of a distinct Arab nation or nations deserving self-rule. Think of figures like Gamal Abdel Nasser in Egypt. Later on, he really embodied that pan-Arab nationalist spirit.
Okay, Nasser's era.
Mm-hmm. But Rogan shows the story doesn't end there. Because, for various complex reasons, the failures or perceived failures of some of those secular nationalist projects, continued foreign interference, the impact of defeats like in the Arab-Israeli wars,
Right.
you then see the significant rise of Islamism. This wasn't entirely new, of course, but it gained much more political traction as an alternative framework, where Islamic principles become central to identity and political goals for many.
So a shift from secular nationalism towards a more religious political identity for some segments of society.
Yes, that's a key transition the book explores. And alongside these big currents, Ottomanism, Arabism, Islamism, he also weaves in other crucial factors shaping identity and politics. The ongoing Arab-Israeli conflict is huge, obviously.
Of course.
The discovery of oil and the immense wealth and inequality it brought. And this constant tension, this balancing act within societies between secular and religious forces, which continues today. It's a really dynamic picture he paints.
It definitely sounds like it avoids easy answers. It's complex, constantly shifting.
Very much so.
Okay, so if we try and connect all this history, these layers of influence and identity shifts, Rogan's book seems to argue that the unrest, the challenges we see in the Middle East today, aren't just recent flare-ups. How does he make that link between these older patterns and current problems?
He connects them very directly. He looks at contemporary issues, authoritarian rule in many states, economic problems, youth unemployment, foreign interventions like the Iraq War.
All familiar headlines.
Right. But he argues you can't understand them properly without seeing the historical context. He explicitly links today's instability and even extremism back to these centuries of external meddling, yes, but also, very importantly, to the unfulfilled ambitions within Arab societies for genuine self-determination, for dignity, for effective governance.
So it's not just blaming the outside, it's also about internal dynamics and frustrated hopes.
Exactly. That's a really key insight, I think. It's not just about victimhood. The book emphasizes the agency Arab leaders and people have had, the choices they've made, the movements they've built, but also the very real constraints and legacies they've operated under, often stemming from that history of domination.
It sounds like it presents a much more, three-dimensional picture than we often get.
I think that's fair to say. It shows how these modern crises have really deep roots in these long-running patterns of external influence clashing with internal struggles for self-mastery. It's a narrative that feels very relevant.
Hearing all this, it really underscores why the Arabs, a history, feels so important for anyone trying to get a handle on the region now.
Absolutely. Its depth is one thing, but that unique focus on Arab perspectives using their own sources, that's crucial.
And it manages to put today's, often chaotic, present into this much longer view, these centuries of context, explaining these really complicated historical shifts in a way that's, readable.
Accessible, yeah, which isn't easy given the scope.
And speaking of accessible analysis, for those interested in exploring more books through this kind of AI-driven discussion, check out the Mindful Moments channel on YouTube. It's our channel, offering AI book analysis designed to spark reflection and, rational thinking.
A good resource for deeper dives.
Definitely. So wrapping up on Rogan's book, it really feels essential.
It does. It provides that long perspective that's so often missing.
And it leaves you with this thought, doesn't it? How this book really makes you question things, like maybe many of today's conflicts aren't just sudden explosions.
Right. More like echoes.
Echoes of ambitions, frustrations, external pressures that go back, half a millennium.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, what are we missing when we look at world events now without digging into those deeper histories?
It's a critical question. History isn't just the past. It shapes the present in profound ways.
Absolutely. So we really encourage you, if this has sparked your interest, to subscribe for more conversations like this. Share with anyone you think might find it valuable. And definitely consider getting a copy of The Arabs, A History. Check our resources for links.
It's well worth the read.
And please do check out our other podcasts and that Mindful Moments YouTube channel. Most importantly, keep thinking critically, keep questioning, keep digging deeper.